Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today I want to break down some small RTD2 Series 14 pre-production news stuff that I've been seeing across the timeline over the last couple of days for your knowledge and entertainment, I guess. Obviously, if you are new around here, we cover regular Doctor Who news here on the channel, so if you enjoy that stuff, feel free to subscribe. We're trying to get to 16k subs, it would be greatly appreciated if we could get there. But with that said, let's get into the news. Also, follow me on Twitter because you're going to see my Twitter on here in just a moment. However, our journey will in fact begin on Instagram, where just today, Russell T Davies posted this picture saying, "A normal Saturday, love heart," featuring himself, Ncuti Gatwa, our new Doctor, Phil Collinson, executive producer, and Andy Pryor, who I believe is casting director. Now, this is very interesting because obviously, it's our first sort of sign of Series 14 stuff actively being worked on. It's our first picture since the announcement, I believe, of Ncuti being involved in something Doctor Who related. And if you look very closely at the picture as well, you can kind of see what looks to be scripts, indicating that perhaps they're doing a read-through of some variety, or possibly even, they might even try out a costume at some point. That's purely speculation on my end, but given that filming on Ncuti's era is set to film in November, pre-production starting around now makes perfect sense. So yeah, that's just very exciting. It's also just very cool to have this as just a nice little thing to see that they're working on stuff. I just love having a showrunner on social media in general. I think it's a really fun way of keeping fans engaged and interested in the show in the downtimes, and I really hope it stays around for when Russell is, making the show and episodes coming out and stuff, because I think it's just really fun to get little updates like this. Ncuti Gatwa then responded to the Instagram post, somewhat cheekily saying casual with a smirky face, which obviously indicates that they're talking about some pretty big stuff, which makes sense because it's the new series with the new Doctor. Pretty massive stuff, and obviously with some very experienced hands working behind it. I'm incredibly excited to see what these guys come out with. I think to be a fly on that wall today would have been incredible, and I think it's just going to be so wonderful. I think Ncuti is going to be fantastic. I'm just loving the energy, I'm loving the excitement. It's just really cool, even just to have little updates. The fan base just goes into meltdown whenever one of these is posted, and I think it's just really fun. On the topic of Series 14 production, no, that's not all we have. A CV of Timothy Warner has revealed his involvement in Series 14 as second AC, assistant camera. It also notes Matt Gray as DOP, indicating that his contributions will continue beyond the first 60th special. Additionally, Martin Payne listed as first AC or assistant camera. So here you can see Doctor Who Series 14, Director of Photography Matt Gray BSc, First Assistant Focus Puller Martin Payne, Second Assistant Tim Warner. Very interesting stuff there. Obviously, CVs are kind of our way of finding out who's working on Doctor Who and stuff. It's kind of exciting. I always like looking at CVs and things like this. Always very exciting. But yeah, it's just cool to see more details on the crew behind Series 14 slowly coming out, and it does sort of add credence to the idea that pre-production is ramping up on Series 14 currently. Speaking of crew, Verity Scott has been listed this past week on IMDb as assistant set director on the 60th specials. This lines up with her CV, which notes her current project as assistant decorator on a show called The Bridge. Now, there's been some speculation about this The Bridge title. From what I understand, and I could be completely wrong on this, it's somewhat of a code name for Doctor Who that is being used, so basically people don't think it's Doctor Who. It's a very common practice. Somewhat famously, Torchwood was actually used as a code name for Doctor Who. It's in fact an anagram of Doctor Who, and then obviously Torchwood in itself became a show, so they couldn't use that code name anymore. But yeah, so this is a pretty common practice. I've seen some people speculate as to why this name was chosen, with Doctor Who Production News specifically stating that perhaps it could be due to perhaps some Tower Bridge filming in London at some point, which someone in the replies did say happened, although the legitimacy of this, I don't know. I've seen some other people speculate that the title itself could be somewhat more meta, in that it could more represent the idea of that the 60th could be a bridge between the Centenary and Series 14, a bridge for the show itself, which I think makes a lot of sense, because we've heard rumours of the Centenary and the 60th tying in some way, and obviously I have no doubts that the 60th will lead into Series 14 in some capacity, so that makes total sense. So yeah, we've had new Series 14 and 60th details today, which is all very exciting. One thing I neglected to mention that I normally would in these scenarios is that IMDb listings can be updated by anyone, so take them with a grain of salt. However, in this case, what I would assume happened is that the listing for the person in question who was working on the 60th was based on the fact that it was on their CV, so I'm pretty confident that it is accurate. However, obviously, given that it is just an IMDb listing, make sure you do take that with a tiny grain of salt. but I think it's a pretty safe bet. I also just want to make note of the fact that today actually marks 1 year since RTD2 itself was announced, which is just mad to think about, because to me it does not feel like a year ago whatsoever. It's gone by so quick, also kind of slow in some ways, but yeah, it's absolutely crazy that that's the case, and we're still not even close to all that this era has to offer, I'm sure. I've just got such a good feeling about it. Everything I've learned about it just has filled me with excitement and joy. That announcement itself was just such a special time to be a Doctor Who fan, and just really, really got me excited in a way that nothing else has, arguably, ever. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that because I think it's just a really, really cool thing. On the more recent front of things though, you may have noticed that the Doctor Who Twitter account has finally reawoken after its presumed period of silence due to the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. It has now been reactivated and has interestingly reinitiated the countdown of Jodie Whittaker episodes, now more sped up as was speculated, with one being posted per day. Which itself is pretty interesting, because I was among those who assumed that there was just going to be a skip with regards to the countdown. I assumed they might just ditch it and focus on Power of the Doctor because of the 2-week gap, because it might be a bit weird. But what I'm assuming that they're doing is making it a daily countdown up until the point where the Centenary comes out, as kind of a final celebration of Jodie Whittaker's era on the show. Which, yeah, I guess is one way of going about it. But yeah, it was interesting because I wasn't sure, but it definitely seems like I was wrong in this case, and they are continuing the countdown. Also, we finally got an official drop of Power of the Doctor as the title on the social medias. I didn't really go over anything that the social medias have posted as of yet, because most of it, bar a couple of pictures, has been seen in Doctor Who magazine, which people have already covered pretty extensively. But it's cool to see the Doctor Who stuff is back, and hopefully now this is a sign that things for the Centenary are in fact ramping up, and we will be seeing stuff pretty soon. So yeah, overall we've had some new details on the pre-production of Series 14, as well as some of the crew working on it, as well as some of the crew working on the 60th anniversary, as well as a presumed code name for the 60th anniversary being the bridge, which again, I like the theory of that being something to do with sort of the bridge between the Centenary and Series 14. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's kind of what I see the 60th specials, because we assume there's 3 of them, filling. I think that makes a lot of sense. But again, it could also be linked to perhaps somewhere that they filmed as well. One final thing I felt like mentioning before I go is that Jodie Whittaker's got an interview with Empire magazine coming out on the 29th of September, so no doubt we'll probably get a couple of bits on the Centenary in that issue. And of course we have the SFX magazine edition early October. So yeah, it seems like things are slowly ramping up on the Centenary front, as well as on the Series 14 and 60th front. So it's a very exciting time. But if you enjoyed this news roundup, feel free to give it a like, comment down below your thoughts, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.